What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for week 2 of building Cato Neimoidia. Just as promised, this week is going to have a lot more progress than the previous one. Now that I'm not bogged down with the whole starting process, I can really just hit the ground running. So I'm really going to tackle the first cliff face and really try and get the whole thing done from one end to the other. Obviously not to the correct height, but at least get it spanning the entirety of the mock. So that way I can really figure out what kinds of patterns I want to put in the rock work, what I want the rock work to look like, and so on, and kind of gauge like how many parts I have, what parts I have, what's going to need to be ordered moving forward. Doing this will allow me to go much quicker on the second cliff, as I will have, the whole vision and the whole process down already. That won't be the only thing I will be focusing on though. I do want to start in kind of the middle terrain area, almost like the no man's land where the clouds and mountaintops are going to be, kind of showing you guys a better vision for what's going to be going on there, and then putting down some mountaintops. It's bound to be an action-packed episode. I got lots of progress. Time lapse is coming your way. All that being said, it's time to get started. All right, guys, it is the first day of week 2, and already things are heating up, getting crazy. So I've got a lot more work done on this front wall. This whole section right here is going to be very flat. That's why you can see over here there's kind of a little bit of curvature right there. This area being flat so that I can kind of connect the cables and the big panel that's going to hold the city up. So basically from this base plate to this base plate is going to be the size of the city. So I wanted to keep this as flat as possible just to make it a little bit easier to work with. You can see it's not going to be super flat, but there's going to be little to no curvature right there. Another thing I've been doing for this middle section is beefing up the interior, kind of the filler brick, because one thing that happened with Utapau that I don't want to happen with this is these walls got so tall and so heavy that they started to bow inward, and this created problems when I was trying to square off these back edges and plate the top. So my plan is for this section right here where the city's going to be hanging to have extra support of the filler brick, basically, starting back further and then coming up, just to create a wider base down here to support this wall section better. I'm not too worried about either of these ends, but mainly just the middle. This middle section is eating up so much filler brick. You can see I'm already starting to run out of this box of filler. You can see this wider base of filler brick is already starting to pay off. Well, I guess you can't really see, but this wall is extremely sturdy. I can barely wiggle it at all, which is a very good sign. Now, here's this was kind of the first problem I ran into for this week, and I was showing Mrs. Coconut the color green that I was going to be using for the mock. You can see I started to put a little bit right there, and then I topped off this little mountain with some green, and she said she didn't really like that color. Felt like it wasn't, it didn't look realistic. She thinks that olive green actually matches the foliage and kind of green color on Cato Neimoidia, and I checked myself, and lo and behold, I honestly think she's right. I think olive green is going to match better, so I'm going to have to take up all of the green and switch over to olive green, similar to what I did with Utapau. However, I think the main difference is with the olive green on Utapau is very sporadic, just little patches here and there, whereas Cato Neimoidia is much thicker and much larger sections. So as we get higher up, kind of towards the top, I'm going to have a lot more olive green and kind of have large patches and strips, especially when I build little outcrops like this or little ledges. I want to have those covered with the olive green. Another thing I am experimenting with is putting plate on the front sides of these flat areas. So you can see I've got a couple areas like this that are just very flat and smooth, and I'm not too sure how I like that look. So I experimented by putting some wedge plates connected by tiles and plate, kind of just like in some rough, circular shape to kind of break up that flat section. Let me know what you guys think about that down below in the comments. This is the only place I've done it. If you guys like it, and if I like it, I think I might do it more. If not, I'll just get rid of it and have stuff look more like that. I'm still undecided. I may make this one a little bit bigger and have it follow the shape of this outcrop a little bit more, kind of go up here and around like that, but we'll see. I'm still undecided on that technique. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I take a break here, and probably the most important thing, is the size of the mock. So I started building this mock and I started mapping out how big the city is going to be, and I ran into a big problem. So the city is going to be connected to both of these cliffs by long strips of cable. So basically imagine, long ropes coming down here. So this city isn't going to be the entire length of this gap. There's going to have to be some cables. And I realized if I put cables right here and cables right there, basically it would make the city itself only about as big as maybe like a base plate and a half, maybe two, probably not. And I realized that's going to be pretty small. Doing this massive mock, all this work, just to have this tiny little city in between these two cliffs. You know what I mean? So I'm actually thinking about lengthening this mock by another gray base plate in length. So basically getting rid of those and then sticking another one here. That's what this gap is supposed to simulate. So if you go from this end to that end, ignoring this gap, that is 5 base plates in length, which is ridiculous. I'm going to have to buy an entire new table, get rid of all of that, put in gray base plates. But I think it might be worth it to be able to, truly capture the scale and just the wow factor that I want to achieve with Cato Neimoidia. I almost said Ryloth. But I'm not sure, because that's going to be a very expensive and lengthy process. Let me know down below in the comments. I'd really appreciate some feedback on this. If you guys think a smaller city would be okay, considering the overall size of the mock and the other things to look at, or if you think I should bring in this extra bit of length. This is the extra length I would get to work with to make that city that much longer. All that being said, I'm going to get back to work and check back in when I have more to update you with. So what you guys see here is a time lapse of me working on the rear wall of the cliff, and I'm actually trying out a new technique that I kind of thought of after Utapau had finished, and will probably help save me a lot of dark tan, and that is just putting in random filler brick on the back side of the mock. I don't know why I didn't do this for Utapau. No one's gonna see back there, you can't see what's going on, so I might as well just use whatever brick I have on hand. This should help save more dark tan for the front and sides, which will be more clearly visible. Let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments, if you think it's a good idea or if you think I should just go with dark tan all the way around. Alright, here's what's going to happen next. So I'm done with the rock work most likely for the rest of the week. I used up all the filler brick I had in my box. I do have more over here, but I kind of want to gauge how much I have left because I want to start that other mountainside. I don't want to have one of these complete before I start the other. I kind of want them to grow at relatively the same rate. So I don't want to pour all of the available filler brick over here when I should be using it over there. But in the meantime, there's still plenty of stuff to do. I'm going to be working on more of these smaller mountaintops that are going to dot this middle area. I'm not sure where they're going to go yet. I'm just going to play around with some spots because I will have ships down here too, so I don't want it to be too crowded and too cluttered. One thing I did with the rock work, I don't think I showed you yet, was I threw in some olive green. So you can see this is like a much thicker patch than what I was doing with Utapau. So this is going to be what you're going to be seeing more of in the future, especially as we get higher up. It's going to be in much longer swathes and much thicker as well. You can see in the back there I've got my second table, so I'm going to be figuring out stuff over here, seeing how much longer the mock is going to need to be. I did decide that no matter what I do, this current length is just too small. So when I have more to update you guys with, I will check back in. checking back in one last time for the week just to kind of give you an overview of what happened. So the entire front area of the cliff has been finished from one end to the other, which is really nice. I probably won't go any higher than what I currently have right here until I can get started over here, like I was telling you guys earlier, just so that these will both come up at the same time. So I switched over here to this main area of terrain and started putting in the little mountaintops. You can see nothing too fancy there. They're actually really fun to build just because it's just, pure rock work. I don't have to worry about any kind of internal structure connecting anything to it. They're just little pieces of mountain. You can see on all of them the top is covered with dark green bricks, and I did this to kind of represent foliage growing on the tops of them. It just looked like in the reference images that I saw, pretty much all of the rock structures had stuff growing on top of them. Here's some that I got on this side. So the placement of these is both random and specifically chosen. So I don't want to have any rock outcrops, mountains, whatever you want to call them, underneath the city, just because I noticed in the reference material that's how it was, and I'm guessing maybe they did that for safety reasons. So these are just going to be on either side of the city. But as far as outside of this little area, I'm not really going to be too choosy with where they go. I just want to make them look random. I probably will only have maybe 2 to 3 more on each side, as I don't want it to crowd the bottom of the mock. Nevertheless, I think it already looks really cool. I'm very happy with this week's progress, especially on this rock wall. I feel like I was able to get a lot figured out with how I want these cliffs to look. Next week is probably going to be more rock work, but on this side. And then of course, I got to get that table set up, get base plates down, and then I might even start putting down some of the transclear studs and start working on clouds. All in all, I have exciting things to come. Thank you guys so much for watching, and it's time to hit the outro. I hope you guys enjoyed this week of building Cato Neimoidia. I know I did. I'm having an absolute blast working on this mock. I was a little bit hesitant. I feel like this happens to me every time I stop and take a break from large scale mocks. It's almost intimidating going back into it because, in my mind, I've got this whole finished product. And I'm like, I need to start where exactly to achieve that. So it's nice to have finally overcome that hump and started. And now I can just enjoy the fun process of building, problem solving, and making this mock look as good as possible. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, or anything like that, feel free to leave them down below in the comments section. And of course, if you liked the video, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. And as always, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future content. But until next time, happy building.